It took me 60 years to learn the hardest lesson of my life, and I am going to reveal it to you in the next few minutes so you never make the same mistake I made. I buried my wife on a Tuesday, November 14th, 1987. The ground was frozen so hard they had to bring in a machine to break through it. I remember the sound, this low mechanical grinding that felt obscene next to the silence of everyone standing there in their dark coats. I was wearing a gray wool coat I hadn't touched in 15 years. It was too tight across the shoulders. I stood there thinking about that, about the coat being too tight, because my mind would not go anywhere near what was actually happening 3 feet in front of me. Margaret, in a box, going into the ground, and all I could think about was a coat. That's what the mind does when it finally runs out of later. It grabs onto something small and holds on, because the alternative, the full weight of understanding that you had 60 years and you spent them on the wrong things, that weight will put you on the ground next to the casket. I know. I felt it trying to. I am 91 years old now, and that Tuesday in November is still the clearest day of my life. Not because of the grief, because of the understanding that arrived with it. The brutal, irreversible, ice-cold understanding that I had mistaken preparation for living, and the preparation was finished, and there was nothing left to show for it that actually mattered. You are living inside an illusion right now. I don't mean that poetically. I mean it the way a doctor means something when he reads a scan and sees exactly what's wrong and has to decide how honest to be. The illusion is this. You believe you have a second version of your life stored somewhere. A later, an after the debt is paid, after the kids leave, after the promotion, after things settle down. You are building toward a moment that you are completely certain is coming, and you are sacrificing the present to fund it. I did this for 60 years. 60 years of soon. 60 years of almost. 60 years of next year I'll slow down. Next year I'll be more present. Next year the real life begins. Margaret died in November. The next year never came. The drawer where I kept my later was empty. It was always empty. Let me be brutal before I'm tender, because that's the only sequence that works. You are broke. Not necessarily with money. Maybe with money too, I don't know your situation. But you are broke in the only currency that cannot be earned back. Time. Attention. The unrepeatable present tense of your own life. Every morning you wake up with a fixed amount of it, and every day you spend it on things you would never consciously choose if someone laid them out at 8 in the morning and said, "Pick. This is what today costs." You spend it on resentment you've been carrying since 2019, on scrolling, on performing competence at work you secretly hate, on being 90% present in rooms where someone needed 100, every day. And then the day closes and you tell yourself tomorrow is different, and tomorrow the same machine runs again. I worked for a company called Hartwell & Sons in Cincinnati from 1959 to 1991, 32 years selling industrial equipment, compressors, hydraulic systems, the kind of machinery that makes other machines function. I was excellent at it. I drove a 1974 Buick Riviera that I waxed every Saturday morning in the driveway on Birchwood Avenue. My son Daniel used to sit on the porch steps and watch me. He was 8 years old when I first noticed him doing it, then 9, then 14. Then he was gone to college and I was still waxing the car on Saturdays, just without an audience. I never once walked across that driveway and said, "Come help me. Come stand here with me. Let's just be in the same place for an hour and let that be enough." I told myself I was modeling discipline. I was avoiding intimacy and calling it virtue. Daniel lives in Portland now. He has 2 children, my grandchildren, whose names I know and whose faces I have seen 6 times in person. 6 times. I have waxed that Buick 240 times. I chose the car over the boy without ever making a single conscious choice. That's the most dangerous kind of decision. The ones you never realize you're making. The ones that live inside your routine and slowly become your life. By the time you see them clearly, they're already your biography. Here is what I believed for 60 years. And here is why it will hollow you out if you believe it too. I believed that love was proven through effort, and effort meant sacrifice, and sacrifice meant absence, and that the people I loved would feel the effort even when they couldn't see me. that Margaret would understand the late nights, that Daniel would someday look back at the waxed car and the paid mortgage and the copper gutters I replaced myself in October of 1979 and think, he did all of that for us. He loved us through the doing of it. They did not think that. Daniel has never once said that. What Daniel says in the rare conversations we have that go past surface level is that he remembers the Buick more than he remembers me. That sentence cost me 3 nights of sleep when he first said it in 2019. It should have cost me something in 1974 when I could have done something about it. Margaret knew before I did. She always knew before I did. After she died, I found a journal in the nightstand drawer, a small blue notebook, no label on the cover, filled with her handwriting in pencil. I read it over 4 days in December 1987, alone in the house. Heat turned too low because I kept forgetting to adjust the thermostat. She had written about a Saturday in August, no year, she rarely dated her entries, where she made lemonade from scratch, squeezed it herself, set 2 glasses on the back porch, and waited for me to come outside. I was in my home office going over quarterly projections. She waited 45 minutes. Then she poured both glasses into the sink and went to the bedroom to read alone. She wrote, "He is here, and he is not here. I think he believes that being in the house is the same as being present. I have stopped trying to explain the difference." I read that entry standing in the kitchen in my pajamas at 2 in the morning. I read it 6 times, and I understood for the first time in my life what it means to be too late. Not late, too late. There is a wall between those 2 words. You cannot see it until you are standing on the wrong side, and by then the only thing you can do is press your hand against the surface and feel how cold the stone is. That journal is in a box in my closet. I have never been able to put it anywhere else. Let me free you from one specific lie before we go further. The lie that the urgency will arrive on its own. That someday, after enough loss, after enough close calls, after enough birthdays that feel like warnings, you will wake up and naturally, finally, fully understand what matters and begin living accordingly. I waited for that morning for 6 decades. It did not come as a morning. It came as a Tuesday in November with frozen ground and a machine breaking through soil and a coat that was too tight across the shoulders. The urgency does not arrive. It does not come to find you. You have to build it yourself, deliberately, every single day, against the current of your own comfort and your own habit and your own endless convincing voice that says, "There is still time. There is still time. There is still time. There is no more later." I need you to receive that sentence the way I mean it, not as poetry, not as a motivational phrase to put on a wall, but as a biological and logistical fact. There is now, and then a different now, and then a different now. And at some point, without warning, without announcement, without the courtesy of preparation, the nows stop. Margaret's nows stopped on November 14th, 1987. She was 61 years old. She had a garden catalog on the nightstand with pages folded at the corners. Peonies, mostly. One climbing rose variety she had been searching for across 3 different nurseries. She never planted them. Every spring since 1988, I have planted peonies in the backyard of this house. Not because it repairs anything, nothing repairs it, but because it is the only conversation we have left and I am not willing to stop having it. Challenge number 1. For 7 days, starting tomorrow morning, not next week, tomorrow, you eat 1 meal per day with nothing between you and the experience. No phone on the table, no screen visible, no background noise running, just the food and whoever is sitting across from you, or just you and the silence if you're eating alone. This is not a spiritual exercise. This is a mechanical interruption of your automation. You eat the same way every day without thinking about it. You are absent the same way every day without noticing it. 7 days of 1 honest meal cracks that pattern in a way that nothing else does. Margaret called this eating like a person. I thought it was precious when she said it. She was the one who was right. Challenge number 2. Write 1 letter this week. Not a text, not an email. A physical letter by hand on paper in an envelope with a stamp. To someone you have been meaning to reach. Someone you've drifted from. Someone you've failed quietly over years. Someone you love but haven't told in a way that required actual effort from you. Sit down and write until you've said the thing you would say at their funeral if you were asked to speak. Then send it before you can talk yourself out of it. I wrote a letter to Daniel in the spring of 2019. It took me 4 hours and 11 drafts, and I sat at the kitchen table until my back hurt, and I almost didn't send it. I sent it. He called me 3 days later. We talked for 2 hours. Something between us that I had believed was permanently closed opened slightly. It is still slightly open. That letter is the best thing I have done in the last 30 years. Challenge number 3. Name one thing in your life that you are doing purely out of momentum. A job. A relationship. A version of yourself you've been performing so long you forgot it was a performance. A story you tell about why your life looks the way it does. Identify it. Write it on a piece of paper. Fold it. Put it in your pocket and carry it for 3 days. Feel the specific weight of it against your body. You don't need to burn your life down this week. You don't need to make any enormous decision. But naming the thing honestly, saying out loud, even only to yourself, this is not what I would choose if I were choosing. That is the first act of a person who is actually awake. Most people never do even that. Most people die with the thing unnamed and spend their final years confused about why they were so exhausted for so long. I am 91 years old. I have outlived Margaret, 2 of my closest friends, and every expectation I had about what understanding would feel like when it finally arrived. I expected wisdom to feel like peace. It does not feel like peace. It feels like precision, with nowhere left to apply it. That is the real tragedy. Not the death, not the loss, not the body failing, but the clarity arriving after the window has closed. I understand now. With a completeness I did not have the equipment for at 34, exactly what Margaret needed from me on that back porch in August. 2 glasses of lemonade, 45 minutes. Me walking out the back door and sitting down and being there. That's all. That was the whole thing. And I was 20 feet away running numbers on paper, and I cannot go back. And the lemonade is gone, and she is gone, and the only place that understanding has left to go is through me and into you. So let it in. Not as inspiration. Inspiration is an emotion and emotions fade by Thursday. Let it in as instruction. Carry it into tomorrow morning when the alarm goes off and the automation starts and your brain begins its usual negotiation with comfort. You are not too late. That is the one mercy I can offer you. You are standing on the right side of the frozen ground. The window is still open. You can still walk out to the porch. You can still say the thing. You can still put the phone down and be actually fully, completely inside the room with the person who is sitting across from you right now, wondering if you see them. We are all going to die. Me, probably soon. The math is not in my favor. You, at a date you don't know and cannot negotiate. The only variable is what happens in the space between now and then, and that variable belongs entirely to you, not to your history, not to your circumstances. Not to whoever hurt you or limited you or told you that you were not the kind of person who got to choose. To you, right now, today, with whatever is left. Go plant something. Write the letter. Eat the meal. Put down whatever you are using to stay slightly outside your own life and step fully into it. Into the mess and the weight and the beauty of it, because it is happening right now, in this moment, while you are breathing and capable and still on the right side of the ground. I gave you 60 years of hard learning in 12 minutes. What you do with the next 12 minutes is the only thing that matters now. The window is open. I don't know for how long. Neither do you.